Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
And Sam is still traveling, so we are finishing up the Turnip Boy duology and playing Turnip Boy Robs a Bank is what he does this time.
Yep, Sam has been driving for 8 straight days. He's still driving. Where is he going? We don't know.
Who can say?
How's your week been, Bernard?
Oh, my week was terrible. It was all just because of my job, and it was just an absolute nightmare. But I'm starting a new job soon.
That's good, at least.
Yes. I told the new job that, I have to put in my 2 weeks notice at my current job, but if this upcoming week he wanted me to just do evenings and the weekend, I could do that. And they were like, okay, we'll probably want you to do that. And I'm like, oh no, now I've got to work 2 jobs at once for a week.
Oh.
So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I hope that isn't too taxing. Honestly, I am trying to think of what has gone on in the last week that is interesting. And I think the main thing, and this is just very silly, is I had a weird, shake up in my routine in the silliest way possible, where I saw art of a character who was a certain body type, and I was just like, I want to fucking start working out again. I want to be a buff butch girl. So I've started doing some introducing more light exercise into my routine and changing up my diet a little bit and stuff like that. Not really noticing any results so far, but it's been a week, so of course I haven't. But hopefully if I keep on that, I can be hot maybe one day. That's the dream.
I saw someone say recently that the main part of being hot is just telling yourself you're hot, and 85% of being hot is delusion.
I mean, possibly.
But also, working out is a good thing to do.
It is indeed. Hopefully it'll be good for my energy levels too, because those have just been black. Also, I recently went to... I put a hold on a book because it had been recommended to me. So I waited for it to come in at the library, and then it came in, and I didn't go to the library to get it for a while because I kept forgetting. And then I got a call a couple days ago where they were like, hey, we're supposed to put you haven't picked this up yet, we're supposed to put it back on the shelves, do you want this book? And I was like, yes, I do. And that woke me up. I had been asleep, so I put on clothes and went to get it, and now I have it. And the book in question is The 100-Year War on Palestine. I'm looking for the author's name because I was hoping I'd find the book around me. By Rashid Khalidi, which I'd had recommended to me as a very good way to educate yourself on the conflict, and I haven't. It's my first nonfiction book in a while. Basically since I graduated university. I'd like to at least dip my toes into reading things that aren't just gay genre fiction again. I mean, I'm still going to read a lot of gay genre fiction, but
it's important to do both.
It is indeed. But that said, unless you had anything else, I guess we'd better get to talking about our experiences robbing a bank together as Turnip Boy.
Yes.
Set 2 days after the defeat of the Onion God, and 1 day after the war that resulted from Mayor Onion's removal from office, this game begins with Turnip Boy being recruited by a team of criminals led by a dill pickle mobster who you could have freed in the first game. It was one of those optional little side quests that we didn't actually discuss.
Yeah,
I don't believe.
we didn't talk about the pickled gang at all last time.
No.
It
And it turns
turns
out they
out
were
they're
really important.
important. Yeah, the
Uh,
rival gang to the Turnipchino family.
yeah. And it also seems like an ally of the mayor's, Stinky the Garlic, has an enormous bank, and Turnip Boy is just the mad lad they need to rob it, even if this pickle and Turnip Boy's father were enemies. So, you go to try to do that. This is a top-down run-and-gun style game, sort of like Hotline Miami, where you fight security guards and cops in your attempt to rob this stupidly enormous bank of everything it has. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
and
side... Oh, good.
it is, some call it a roguelite, and
I...
but it has about as little randomization as possible while still theoretically someone could call it that.
Yeah, exactly. There are a lot of side quests you can do, and nearly as many random citizens shake down for all their pocket money. The main floor plan of the bank is static, like you're saying. It is mostly consistent, with there are roadblocks in specific spots that can only be bypassed with items that you buy off the dark web back at your base. And oh yeah, you go back to your base a lot because you have a limited time to be doing each run in the bank before the fuzz get called in to swarm you. And at that point you have to fight your way out. Using the money you get from each attack on the bank, you can buy upgrades and, of course, the dark web merchandise. You can also bring back any new weapons you find on your runs to then be turned into research material to get new guns. But while the main schematics of the bank are fixed, there is some light randomization in the case of the elevators, because every time you encounter an elevator, there is a random, like, it'll take you to a random room with the doors of the elevator giving you a hint of what's going to be on the other side. And a lot of those rooms have a lot of loot worth taking, though a lot of it is guarded very jealously. The rhythm of gameplay, outside of just getting enough money to get the stuff you want, is finding the boss for each of the section in the static area, defeating them, and then getting a key card which you can use to access the next section of the bank. The first boss is Sheriff Yeehaw, who, like most real-life sheriffs, is a violent maniac ready to murder you for disturbing him. Oh, and he's obsessed with America. Again, like most real-life sheriffs. All cops are bastards, but sheriffs are, like, extra bad. Anyway, beating him gets you access to a park-like area where a lot of food folk are now living in tents, including a lot of friendly faces from the first game. Getting into the rock candy area in the back of there leads you to a candy apple boss, which then gets you into a dark and scary area full of radioactive goop, which has goblins? Like, they seem to be humans who've been mutated by the nuclear fallout, I think?
Did you get the dialogue that
Like
these
they're
are...
cosplayers? Yes.
Yeah, and that's why they have pointed ears?
Yes, it was very good.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
weird and kind of upsetting, and also for some reason, sometimes their overworld sprites
looks like
appear to be...
like a food folk. I think it's a
Yeah,
disguise?
but sometimes the overworld sprite looks like a human with the mask on, the food folk mask.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know, it's weird.
it's
It's a
weird.
weird part of this game.
Also they eat food folk because they're vegetarians, which in this
Hmm.
world basically makes them cannibals.
Yes.
After you get by the most horribly upsetting roadblock, namely a bunch of food folk who've been fused together into a wall, you get to the next boss, Mecha Chad, who's one of the IRS folks from the first game. One of the other IRS folks, who's also been made into a cyborg, is the dude who gives you your personal, like, upgrades for your stats. Also, Mecha Chad, in my opinion, I think is the hardest boss of this game. He's
Yes.
very frustrating.
And yes, it was the boss I had the most trouble with. And he doesn't like do anything super crazy, except he does put the slime and soap videos on the top and bottom of your screen to distract you. But
Yes,
other than
which
that,
I don't.
did
I
they
think it.
distract you?
They didn't distract me. I think it was just like the layout of the room and his
Yeah.
attacks. Just my first couple times, it really wiped me out, and I had to grind a bit for money to upgrade enough to where he wasn't as much of an issue.
And also, he's a really small target.
He's a
Uh,
very small target.
where it's like the next boss is a very
Yeah,
big target and is very upsetting, but is a much
indeed.
larger target, so easier to hit while you're running around trying to dodge things.
Yep. Yeah. After you beat Mecha Chad, you get access to a big, spooky haunted mansion area of the bank. And the extremely upsetting boss of that is a once human person who seems to have been the original owner of the bank, but because of the bombs, fused with a sandwich, and so he's an enormous sandwich man.
It's gross.
Gross. Really easy, but gross.
I didn't find them really
Oh,
easy.
I had no problems that hit with him personally,
Huh.
but it might be because I had upgraded maybe too much in my quest to defeat Mega Chad. Uh, Along the way, there's a lot of talk about the mysterious Motherlode, the payoff for this grand adventure, along with the sense that Stinky the Garlic is hiding something. After clearing all those areas, though, you've been to every room in the bank's floor plans, and there's nowhere else the Garlic could be hiding it all. Except in the sewers. It's time for a sewer level. You go down there, and there's a lot of rats, and beating all of them takes you to Stinky's hideout, which is indeed full of money. But more than that, he also reveals that he knew Turnip Boy's father, and he in fact helped Onion kill him. You also find your dad's old hat and gun, and
Really
like
good
passing
gun.
the torch. Extremely good gun. But that's not enough for your pickly boss. No, no, no. After everything that Stinky did, just taking all his money isn't what needs to happen. No, what needs to happen is you have to steal his bank, literally, which you do by attaching rockets to all four corners of the bank, where the boss fights were, which means you have to fight the bosses again. And in so doing, you send the bank into space, which turns out to be even a worse plan than it sounds, because the whole Onion God in space fight from the last game brought on the attention of aliens who are possessing food folk bodies, one of which appears to be your dad, but that never gets commented on.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
weird that they don't comment on that.
yeah, and they chase you through the whole game, like the whole layout of the game again, as you have to go one by one and turn off all the rockets so you can get back to Earth. And so you do that, and I guess the day is saved. It's the end of the game.
The pickle guy, what's his name? Dill.
I
It's Dill
I
something.
it's like Dilatini.
Something
I'd
like
keep
that.
calling the pillow guy because I couldn't remember his name.
He drives his truck into
Oh, you're right. He
the
does.
spaceship to defeat the
Sa-
aliens.
I forgot. He does sacrifice his life to defeat the aliens. That is,
Um,
my brain somehow forgot that.
yeah. So that's the basic outline of the plot, and I feel like we're going to have a lot of memorable moments and stuff to talk about.
Yes, we do indeed. Which we'll talk about after some music. Why don't you start?
So I feel like, in general, this game is much more fun to play than the first one, but doesn't have quite as much of a coherent, thematically pure narrative.
Agreed. I would agree with that entirely.
Like, the first game was very much everything was constructed just to have this goofy anarchist message, and it all worked very well. But this one was more like it still has more or less the same worldview, but it's what we're getting is more like weird world building and stuff.
Yeah, gotta give him credit. Among the various security guards and cops that you fight and kill, literally some of them look like bacon.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, there's the whole thing with the sheriff, which I think is a fairly accurate skewering of what actual sheriffs are like. But I say as someone who had like a great uncle or something who was a sheriff. Uh, but yeah,
Also, a
I
lot of
think
the cops are peaches, and they're called the Fuzz,
the fuzz.
which
Uh,
isn't doesn't communicate any political ideas, but I like it.
I do too. It's a good joke. I think honestly, what makes the gameplay work is also what makes its narrative cohesion and its like the heft isn't as strong because it's this gameplay loop of going to the bank, shooting up the guards and the cops, grabbing money, checking out which elevators are there. Like it becomes this like set rote thing as you keep going back and back and then doing some exploring and getting to the new areas and yada yada. Compared to the adventure game-ish sort of thing of the first game, which was a lot shorter and more directly step A, step B, step C, step D, etc. It all linked together really nice and really thoroughly. And this game's really interesting and fun gameplay style, as a consequence, kind of divorces itself from that sort of clear progression of one thing to the next, to the next, to the next.
Yeah, like in tax evasion, I did everything pretty much. I
Same,
got
and I
all the
didn't do here.
hats.
I did not did all the hats here.
Yeah, one because I think there's just more stuff, but
Yes.
also because a lot of it was like, okay, now I've got to go back to the office level, and it's like, oh well, I'm just gonna have to wait until an elevator for the office comes up, and
Yep.
then an elevator for the office comes up, but I get the layout that doesn't have the person that I want to see.
Yeah, exactly. It
So
it's yeah, so they're harder to do in that sense. And some of them are really good, and I'm sure we're going to talk about. And some of them are like, okay, I guess that was a thing.
yeah.
Like to put my cards table, my two favorites that like stand out is in the first game. There's the whole thing with there's a strawberry and a blueberry who you do. We talked about in the last one. You could give deliver a love note and then you rip it up in front of them. But it's silly and it's cute. And here in this game, they're still together. And in fact, they both separately enlist your help in finding rings to propose to the other person. Also, I don't think that I realized this in the first game, but they're both girls, and at least one of them is trans. I think it's the strawberry, but I'm not clear. Uh, Maybe they're both trans. But they have a trans pride flag over their tent, and when you do the first of the two quests, when you find a candy ring for one of them, she gives you a trans pride rock, which is just adorable, and I love. And it's just a fun little cute quest of like getting to see more of these characters together.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is a random elevator thing, not really a task. But there's a crossover one with another small indie game that I happen to play. Namely, you can run into Dr. Dogna of Super Animal Royale. If you don't know, Super Animal Royale is a really fun, battle royale style game that is extremely weird and wacky and has a very fun set tone. And you can just one of the elevators takes you to the lab of a character from that a lab who's run by a scientist who is a Labrador Retriever. It's a joke. But yeah, she talks about how this isn't her world and she somehow crossed universes to get here. And then you fight an optional boss of a super fox. And doing this gets you, in addition to a hat, because everything in this game gives you a hat for some reason. Uh, the other thing is there's a playlist of songs that updates your background music tracks update as you do new things in this game, and doing this gets you the track for one of the songs in Super Animal Royale, and it's a great song, and it made me so happy.
I found that lab once and I was like, this is weird. I don't know what's going on. I am not familiar with this crossover that I don't know is happening. I did not fight the fox because I had a lot of money and treasure and did not want to lose it, and I didn't know how hard the fox would be.
It wasn't very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that tickled me pink. It was a wonderful little silly side quest sort of thing. What tasks and side quests and stuff stuck out to you, Bernard?
In the sewer, I ran into a rat who just said rat noises at me.
Yes.
And then I ran into a food folk who was wearing a hat that looked like a rat, and they were like, "Oh, I want to join the rats, but I'm like, I don't remember how they phrased it, but basically they like weren't sure if they were being inappropriate by wanting to join rat society. So they ask you to go get a rat to say okay." So you go to the rat, and the rat says approving rat noises, and you get a scrap of paper that says rat on it, and you bring it back to the food folk, and they're like, "Oh, awesome! I get to be a rat." And
Yep.
then yeah, it was weird and cute, and I liked it. Trying to remember what else. I played all of this a few days ago, over the course of a few days. I
Yeah.
finished a few days ago.
I finished yesterday. There was one you just reminded me of. There's a Frankenstein-like mad scientist who is
Yes.
struggling with the ethical quandaries being faced by his experiments. So you have to go to some NPC near the start of the game whose name is the Thunker because he thunks real good. To ask him if what that guy's doing is okay, and after contemplating it, he gives you a note that just says "based." But then you get to the mad scientist, and he's already done it.
Yep.
There's also a wonderful thing of setting up a grandma who has taken over hell with a vampire, and it's just very fun and silly.
Yes. The grandma who's taken over hell was the one I mentioned last week,
Yes.
who liked manga, and her granddaughter encounters you and says that you ripped her soul out when you spoke the word stop to her, because Turnip Boy only speaks in like ... or exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. But in the first game, when
There's one line of
Grandma Cran
dialogue.
Cran is like talking in her uwu speak, um, Turnip Boy says stop. And her granddaughter claims that this killed her. So and sent her to the other side. So she gives you her favorite manhwa and is like, take this to her and go to the other side and take this to her to make it up to me to make this right. So you go to hell, you go to the other side and give it to her. And it turns out she really likes having become the queen of hell.
Yep.
And she like runs a fighting ring or something, some sort of coliseum, and I accidentally wandered in, and I was really scared, but I managed to win somehow. I don't know how I won, but
yeah. The further you get in the game, it gets harder and harder. But beating it gives you access to some really cool weapons.
mm-hmm.
Speaking of weapons, I just in general, I just want to say I've really enjoyed the variety of the weapons in this game. There's just a lot of really fun ones between the random ones you pick up in fights and also just the ones that you unlock by giving those other weapons over to the person at the base. My standard loadout for a while was the shotgun and the assault rifle because I love shotguns. But at the end of the game, like you said, Dad's pistol is obscenely good. And then mixing that with every boss drops behind a specific weapon when you beat them. And the giant sandwich man drops behind one of those little toothpick swords that they put in sandwiches. And that sword is
I didn't recognize it as that, but that's totally what it is. Yeah.
yeah. And that toothpick sword is a buster sword basically
Hmm.
because of the size difference. And it's incredible. I love it. It's the best melee weapon in the game.
It's enormous. You can hit things from far away. It also makes you run slower because it's so big.
Well, what's really fun also with using it to, I used it to fight basically most of the bosses on the refights, for putting in the rocket boosters, and its attack area is so big it destroys any projectiles the bosses are firing at you. So on some of the bosses, that helps so much,
Hmm.
just like clearing out their rain of attacks on you.
I forgot to ask. Did you play on playstyle A or B?
I don't know what that means.
At the beginning of the game, I think it asks you if you want to play on A or B, and uh, I think
I
it's just a difficulty mode by a different name,
I think it.
but
Oh,
I'm
yeah, I
not
did
sure
the
what the
easier.
differences are.
I did the easier one because I was playing it for podcast and I didn't want to. I generally go easier in most games.
Yeah, I was getting started early, so I went ahead and did the hard one, um, which was hard, but I had a lot of fun with it. And it tells you can change at any time. So I was like, if it gets too hard and we're coming up on recording time, I can change.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just wondering what the differences are. But it sounds like it's just probably the same, but with the numbers tweaked because like we both had the same boss was the hardest for us. With Mecha Chad.
Yes, indeed. Can
Um,
you can you can you think of any other like memorable momenty things to stand out of the game?
I'm just trying to land on ones to talk about it. There's just so
There's
many
so
weird
many.
things jumbled in my brain. I'm wondering if I had done everything, if the whole thing with the aliens would have made more sense.
I don't know. Oh, there's also a whole fungus cult
Oh
who
yeah,
the mush
the
who give
Shruminati.
yeah, the Shruminati who give you a bunch of extra quests to do that are like very like they're not ones that you're just gonna like go bash out. They're like destroy 1,000 pieces of furniture, kill 100 of this type of security guard. So those take you a while to finish, but I did finish all of them. But like most tasks in this game, you just get hats.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of the hats, early-ish on, you get one that's a reference to Fairly Odd Parents, and that one character who has the giant ass hat, where you get a Texas style like 10-gallon hat, except it's so tall that it just goes to the top of the screen, no matter what screen
Yes.
you're on. I thought it was funny for a little bit, but I didn't wear it for more than one screen because I was like, "Oh, this actually makes the game more annoying to play."
Yeah, I saw it in the menu and I was like, is it actually going to extend off the screen if I put it on? So I put it on and saw that it extended off the screen. I thought it was very funny. And then I took it off.
Yes, it's
I
the kind
wore
of
the
joke you're like, "Aha," and then you're done.
I wore a cute pair of glasses on my Turnip Boy for most of the game.
I actually went hatless. I think almost the entire game I went hatless.
Hmm. A lot of them like they're just sort of like placed on top of Turnip Boy, so sometimes they might not look quite right with certain animations or something. I mean, even with the uh glasses, there's an animation where Turnip Boy like looks up and to the right and his eyes sort of like go beyond the frames of the glasses.
Mm-hmm.
But also I love Turnip Boy so much. Turnip Boy is so cute. I um I was telling my friend about it and I was like, you got to play this game, Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. And then we found out it was on sale on the eShop for $3.74, so he bought it.
But yeah, I think that's everything to say about the game. It's very, I will say, like, again, it's really fun. Like,
Yes.
the gameplay is just really enjoyable. It's just like, in terms of like, it has more stuff than the first game, but it feels like it comes together a little less tightly because of that.
Did you find the back rooms?
No? Wait,
There's
do you mean
the
like the back rooms? The back rooms?
Yes.
What?
I think it's in the you get there through the sewers. There's a there's a wall you can walk through that leads to
Oh
the
my
back
god.
rooms.
Oh my
And
god.
there are those photo spots throughout the
Oh,
game,
that's what the last photo is.
and you take a photo there, and it's a selfie of Turnip Boy, except there's a horrifying turnip with like blood coming out of its eyes behind him, and it's actually the seller on the dark web uh, is behind him, and he just like instantly catches up with you and kills you, and then on the screen where Turnip Boy is has the briefcase open and closes it, there's blood coming out of Turnip Boy's eyes, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
God, you're making me want to go do this now. I'm gonna have to go do this.
I mean, if you got all the other photos,
I
you should get the last photo.
I should get the last photo. This is blowing my brain.
Yeah, the game just has lots of fun stuff in it, and I really enjoyed it. And if you enjoyed the writing of Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion,
It's still here. It's still good.
Yeah, I think you should definitely play Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. If you want to play Turnip Boy Robs a Bank, you should probably play Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion first and 100% it, because everything that happens in Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion is referenced heavily.
Indeed.
But I am really glad that we played this pair of weird games.
Me too. I'm very glad that Emma recommended these, because these were very fun. But Bernard, if people are excited for, us getting back to Paper Mario next week, where can they like look up things about our podcast and let us know their thoughts and support us and things like that?
Well, if you like this podcast, you can head to rpgbook.club, where all donations help us cover the costs of running the show and make it better, and help us buy games about turnips and stuff. And if you set up a recurring monthly donation, you get additional benefits. For instance, if you donate $1 or more a month, you get our Gadabout tier that gets you access to our bonus feed, which does not have a new episode this week because Sam is traveling and we couldn't record an episode for the bonus feed this week. But next week we'll be back on it. We'll be doing our penultimate episode on Star Ocean First Departure.
I'd love to play a Star Ocean game at some point.
Star Ocean First Departure is kind of weird, but it's also pretty short. So it's not a big commitment. Donating $1 or more a month also gets you access to our polls to decide what we play next on the main feed, which next on the main feed, we're actually doing our yearly sellout game. So you don't get to vote on that. It's been decided. It's going to be Persona 3 Reload. It's going to be amazing. If you donate $5 or more a month, you get our Warrior tier, where we'll shout out your name on every episode, just like this. Cerebral Wind, It's Claire Time, Frost Terror, Dragon Slayer 19, Floris, Kaldron, Freddy Rodriguez, Aaron524, and Jfro Prime. And finally, if you love us so much you want to get the Illuminary tier, you can donate $20 or more a month, and you get to make Sam, or in rare cases Bernard, say something of your choosing. Shout out to El Tantavi, who wants you to check out Aftermath.site, a worker-owned, reader-supported news site covering video games, the internet, and the cultures that surround them. Shout out to Vimk, who has been dropping tips on playing Legend of Legaia in the Discord. So you should come hang out and talk to them about Legend of Legaia. And Sam wants everyone to play Legend of Legaia so that Vimk can ask us to say something else. And I'm like thinking, Sam, stop complaining about what they're paying you to have you say. You're not doing a good job. But I don't actually say that. And shout out to Carr, who is a dentist, so he isn't plugging a website, but rather your own mouth. And he says to brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
Toodaloo, folks.
Bye.